So on your next inhale, I want you to take a really big deep breath in through your nose. Brief hold at the top, and then take a big open mouth exhale. Let your breath go. We'll do that 2 more times together. Big deep breath in. Brief hold at the top, and then let something go. One last time. And let it go. Whenever you're ready, tuck your chin down towards your chest. Yay.
Love it.
I love it too.
Love it.
I know, I always feel better after a few breaths. After, yeah, just a few. It only takes a little bit of time. Yeah. Okay, hi. I can't believe we're here.
I know.
This is so fun.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, wait, I love this. This makes me so happy. I kind of just want to really get into it. How did you even get into Pilates in this crazy world?
I literally just walked into a studio one day. Just a girl randomly walked into a studio one day. I saw it going on. I was in the shopping center in college and I was just aimlessly walking around and I was like, oh, that looks kind of fun. And then I looked at the times and I was like, okay, well, there's one in 15 minutes. Cool. I'll sign up. Took it and I became obsessed. Like a month later, I became a front desk girl. 4 or 5 months later, I got certified. And then I taught like a handful of classes. The format specifically that they wanted me to teach wasn't quite it. It was kind of like a train and tread, but it was like mega and bar. It was also a Legree studio. So about 25 minutes on the mega and about 25 minutes bar. And just that format didn't quite feel right, I guess, communicating wise. Mm-hmm. And so just didn't teach it. Had a normal corporate life for a few years, finished college. I had this Legree certification under my belt. And then one day I just looked at myself in the mirror and was like, I hate this. This is all for naught. What is this purpose? what's going on? And so I went back to school. Long story short, I did not have the paycheck that I was used to by any means. And so I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my time to kind of supplement being in school? And I saw a studio was opening. I was like, okay, well, I have the certification. I've never really used it. May as well. And it kind of just happened. And I hate to say it, I stopped going to school for what I was going for. But at the end of the day, I was making the same amount teaching that I initially was thinking about. And I was also making a commission off of that, which is what I had been used to. I was in sales and staffing for a really long time. And I also was having fun while doing it. I grew up in a dance and cheer background, just always moving, always doing something, always articulating through my feet and using my powerhouse. So accidentally doing floor bar and accidentally moving in that sort of way. I was actually talking about this with a friend the other day. It's kind of like I always knew how to cook, or I always knew what Pilates was. But then I actually took Mat 1, took Mat 2, took Mat 3, learned all the modules. Now I'm getting my full Pilates comprehensive. And now it's kind of I'm learning the recipes and I'm actually getting the measurements right. So I don't know, it kind of has always, I think, been there in a little bit of a way. And it was just finding the right path and getting on the right road.
And I love hearing that. And it's so interesting because every fitness instructor that I talk to, especially in Dallas, their story of getting to Pilates is so fascinating to me, because a couple years ago, it wasn't super popular like it is now. There's one on every single block. It's almost like Starbucks is at this point, where it's any studio that's popping up, it's either a Pilates bar studio or it's a reformer.
Yeah.
Either mat or reformer. And so what I think is fascinating is that we all come to this format in some way. And I think it's interesting that you started kind of with the Legree format. Mm-hmm. So tell me, knowing the Legree format and now going into more classical, how has that process been? Because I feel like those two styles are they're very similar, but they're also very different.
So different. I think that it does speak to kind of the evolution of Pilates in a way, where it was mat, full apparatus, reformer, and Sebastian came along in the early 2000s and he made it in some ways harder, sure, but in other ways, I think, a lot more accessible. A lot of people know what a lunge is. A lot of people know what a push-up is. A lot of people know what a plank are. But not a ton of people know what exactly a teaser position is, where you're holding a V. Like, that just doesn't quite click in people's minds. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know that I need to go into a 90-90 stance for a lunge. Cool. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think as far as the styles, for a consumer aspect, Legree can be more accessible, and classical can be and should be more down to the bones and basics in your own body weight, but it can also be harder and spicier in such a sneaky way. And I think both should be just like so honored in such different ways. And I think both are amazing for the body. Mm-hmm. And honestly, for like the mind connection, and just, you can do so much with either. You can help take an athlete to the next level, or you can help somebody with a major injury just feel better and reconnect. Mm-hmm. So I think both are amazing.
No, I totally agree with you. And even in my own practice, I've noticed that me learning from the classical first, and then me in my private practice or personal practice, I'll go to Legree classes for myself. And it's kind of, I use that more as like a strength training aspect almost, and more like weight training, which I know I should probably like go back into my actual weight training eventually at some point. Like, it's fine, we're here. But the classical Pilates, I mean, it has rebuilt my posture and my spine. And the more that I do it rather than just teach it, and I have that in my personal practice, I mean, I notice the difference, not only with my breath, but also just in how I walk around in that way. So I totally love how you came from the more accessible to everyday person now, where it's like, yeah, this is more of the fitness way of how we bring in the reformer now to, okay, let me get like down and dirty with the basics and like why this practice actually works. Yeah. Okay. So you came from a dancing cheer background. How has that incorporated you into like how you actually speak now as a facilitator, as like an instructor?
It helps me so much. If I did not have any of that sort of background, I don't know how I would even talk. I don't know how I would speak. I don't know that. I don't think I could even count to 5. Like, so just that confidence in speaking. And 2, growing up in Texas, everyone looked up to, like, let's say the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, and everybody so like looked up to being perfect and being in perfection. And so a lot of that had to go into mentorship. And so I was often placed in a captain position or a leadership position. And so having that in my belt and being able to speak to, okay, hold on, your arms aren't in the right place. Babe, nope, you need to close the legs, like zipper together. We're all together here. Just the little things definitely helped as far as communicating and instructing and being a leader in a room. And then overall body mechanics too, just knowing like where you're placed, that kind of basic things that I think anybody can pick up on too. And just the way that I instruct, I like feeling like I'm in a dance class again. Like, it's kind of silly. And I know that's like people like, ugh, I hate that type of thought, but it is fun to kind of almost be like on airplane mode, where you're just like picking your leg up and down and you're just going through this graceful movement, but it's so hard that you can almost tune out to it in a weird way. So yeah, that's one big thing that I carry into my classes, is feeling like you aren't doing a lot of work, but also doing a ton of work at the same time. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to your classes, and that I try to get to them every opportunity I have space in my schedule, is that you make it such a, okay, now we're just going to do this. And then you're like literally dying within the first like 90 seconds. And it's like, okay, we're going to stay here for a little bit and we're going to add on. And what I love about that too, is that you're so good about building community in your classes as well. And I think that can be really hard as an instructor, because kind of like we were talking about earlier, like Pilates has become so saturated, and there are so many instructors now, especially in Dallas, DFW, whatever we want to say, but there's so many studios, there's so many instructors, and it's like, how do you find like your voice, and then also just bringing your experience and your training into the room, and then building on that community that you want to build for yourself? I think one thing that's really important as an instructor is being a student. And I remember a couple of times as a student, I didn't feel seen. And that's A-okay. Sometimes you don't want to be seen, but then sometimes you're like, hey, wait, am I doing the right thing? Hold on. What's going on? And something I heard a few years ago, I remember when I was in staffing, is always remember somebody by their name. Mm-hmm. And at the time, like you have obviously their resume, everything in front of you in a computer, everything's like lined up. But everyone's name, or the most important word in every language, is somebody's name. Doesn't matter what language it is, doesn't matter where you are in the world, the number one word to each and every person is their name. So being able to say somebody's name in class and being able to make that connection, it's just the biggest thing for me, to have somebody feel seen, to have somebody feel important, and to have somebody feel acknowledged. I mean, it's sometimes like your 1 hour that you can get away from a deadline, or that you can get away from a responsibility, or that you can get away from just whatever is seriously bothering you. And so to just feel good can be so important. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is to like, I like being there. I like teaching and I like moving in this way. And so if I can share that joy with somebody and make them feel good in that hour, I've more than done my job. And I feel so good about that.
Yeah. And I think you do an incredible job in that too.
Thank you.
Truly. And it really does speak to how you are as an instructor, but also how you present yourself as an instructor too. You're very so easily approachable and so kind and open. And I think that can be an incredible asset that not a lot of instructors have immediately. I think some people have to build that, because especially as new instructors, I know we can both speak to this a little bit of like, when you start, you can be incredibly terrified.
Yeah.
You can be so nervous. You're like, you're just making sure you can get your sequence right and make sure that you get it on both sides at this point.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Truly. And like, honestly, how many years in am I in my personal Pilates teaching journey? And it's like, I think it's so funny, like I'll still mess up, but it's like, now I can laugh it off rather than kind of like a nervous energy. Mm-hmm. But I think when you're a new instructor, I think it can be really tough to continue to stay open and kind and make sure that you introduce yourself and do all the things, and then remembering someone's name. I love that because I'm terrible with names, and I have to continue to be so intentional about it. And if that skill set is not built in with you, oh my God, you really have to work at it.
You have to work at it so hard.
Mm-hmm. So what other things have really helped you as you have gone on this journey of really tapping into being a fitness instructor and Pilates instructor?
I feel like too, just over the years, kind of not being seen, it kind of does go back to that. Like little injuries I've had here and there. And, you know, I'll ask instructors, hey, what should I do? What should I do about this? What should I do about X, Y, and Z? And it's like, oh, I don't have an answer for that. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'll find one because I need one for my body. Yeah. So just figuring that kind of thing out and then answering that again. Now as an instructor, I didn't need it then. I needed it for myself at that time because I was a student. But now that I have it in the back pocket, to help somebody else is a big thing too. I don't know, in some ways I hate to go to this. In other ways, I feel like it's something that needs to be spoken upon is, you know, sometimes I think in studios we have this idea maybe of what should be walking in the door or what should be coming into the room. A lot of the times, I'll admit it, I'm not that. It's this usually, what I'm kind of portraying to is kind of this Pilates princess that you and I have kind of talked about. Mm-hmm. Like just the perfect aesthetic, hair slicked back. Maybe they have on lip gloss. Maybe they have on like the perfect set. In that space, totally is yours. You can totally be in there on a reformer, slinging the most amount of weight on a mat. Go for it, girl. But there's also room for the girl that maybe rolled out of bed and looks like Adam Sandler. And like maybe I am just working with my own body weight today because I'm working with some random injury in my back. Or, you know, maybe my hair is in this sloppy top knot on the top of my head with a scrunchie that's 10 years old that the elastic is barely hanging on from cheer camp from 2008 or something.
No.
So, yeah, definitely having that space and being on both ends of the spectrum of being seen and being not seen, and making sure both girls have a good time, mm-hmm. and building that community in my class and building that bridge, so to speak.
No, and I think that's so huge because I feel like not only in Dallas, but the Pilates aesthetic as it's become like much trendier over the past couple years, I've noticed that there's a similar aesthetic. It can be very different across the board as far as like coloring and branding and everything like that. But at the end of the day, there can be very similar aesthetics of what we expect to walk into the space. And unfortunately, like not all of us look like that all the time.
Yeah.
And like, obviously on some days, like I can have my hair slicked back. I can look like that girl if I want to. But like you've seen me in some of these 7 a.m. classes. I'm like, it's a miracle I made it even on time / 5 minutes late. And like, did I actually brush my teeth? I maybe tongue scraped, but didn't brush my teeth. Like, I mean, we're just hanging on by a thread some days. Yeah. And it's like, and having space for all the versions of you, I think is so important because like you mentioned of being seen is so important because I feel like especially as women, not only in the Pilates space, but also in the fitness space in general, how many times are you seeing a very similar kind of character in the space?
Yeah.
And not that there's not lacking in diversity in the space, but it's kind of like, okay, like, can everyone walk into the space and feel welcome?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously being seen is just a huge kind of MO for you of how you just show up.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has been super resonant because I feel like every time there's a new studio opening, you're a part of it, which I think is so cool. I mean, every time I see something popping up, I'm like, oh my God, Macy's part of that now. She's doing this, she's doing that. And I'm like, she's literally killing it, which I also think speaks to how you can show up in your way in all these different spaces, which I think is incredible.
Thank you.
Speaking to that, I feel like there are so many instructors that would really be wanting to know, like, how do you make your way into those spaces when there's new openings and new studios popping up? And how do you find your niche, but then also find a studio that works for you?
I think part of it is also knowing when to say no to. I've recently had some offers that were incredible offers that truthfully I might like go back to, but straight up, I didn't have the right certifications, like honestly. And, you know, they were very nice. They were very kind, but at the same time, knowing like, I don't want to say knowing your place, but knowing your education and knowing your skill set and knowing, okay, these are the bases that I can cover and these are the bases that I'm not equipped to cover right now. And when you can cover them, being confident in owning what you do know, that's important. Something that I recently picked up is Pillbox, which is a little combination of classical mat Pilates and then shadow boxing. Thinking about that off the cuff, I would kind of be like, that could be fun, but I don't know. The thought child behind it, or the brain mama, Jasmine, is a good friend of mine and we used to dance together. And so this is something that is originally from her and she's taken me on. And so that was something that I felt confident in saying yes to because it was something that I knew I could develop and I knew I had my hands on and I knew that I had a strong partner with me there. So knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no and being very thoughtful and being very methodical about where you want to be and where you eventually do want to go is, I think, very important. So again, knowing your bases and knowing your skill set is a big thing.
No, and I feel like that is so huge because something that I didn't realize when getting into Pilates is how the education process is so intense. So intense. And my initial way into this was through an Equinox training, which was a very quick intro into it. And it was an incredible training. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved it. But now going deep into the classical, like full comprehensive training, it is one of those things that if you don't prep yourself for, I mean, it's a full-time job going through the education aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that's just one aspect of teaching. And then it's like, and then there's sculpt and now the shadow boxing. And I mean, when fitness instructors are getting into it, you are getting a master's in your own education when it comes to anatomy, to physiology, to showing up in a space, to leading. I mean, there's so many aspects. It's not just, okay, I love this, so let me start teaching.
Yeah. No. No. And that is one thing that is kind of crazy. I was having this conversation with a friend who takes a lot of classes, and I think that she is business savvy to open up a studio, but she's like, I didn't realize how many people were teaching without certifications. I'm like, babe, I know. And she's like, so you are certified, right? I'm like, yes, I am certified. Like, yes, I have like X, Y, and Z, and this is what I have. But like, there's certain things that I do say no to because I straight up don't know how to operate that. And it boggles my mind when people are like, oh yeah, I can work on a Cadillac. I know how to teach on that. Have you ever worked on it yourself? No. What? No, I don't trust you. That's like going to a dentist and never getting their teeth cleaned.
I mean, it's really wild. And, you know, I just find it incredible how the space has grown so much. And I love that it's become such a trend. But at the same time, with things becoming trendy, when things blow up so quickly, it's like, how do studios and how do instructors get the education that they need to show up in the way that they have to? And I feel like there's such a hard balance for not only studios, but also instructors being like, okay, like if I have to show up in XYZ, like I'm going to do my best and learn as we go. But having the basics is so important.
Yeah.
And something that I just find fascinating. So I mean, like we could talk about this for
a long
time, such a long time. But I mean, now that you've started growing in the Dallas, like not only Pilates space, but I kind of use Pilates and fitness interchangeably. Unfortunately, but unfortunately sometimes, because they've kind of become one and the same at some point, it's all kind of meshing together that I'm seeing. How is that dynamic to you of knowing the classical Pilates and building on that in your education, but then also balancing that with the fitness aspect?
I think labeling is a big thing that people need to be aware of. I had a review not earlier. This was a little while ago, but it was kind of funny. It was when a studio was first opening, and this girl signed up for a sculpt class. So very to the beat of the music, very fitnessy. And thank goodness it was a fit grid review. So a more private review, only me, the person that wrote it, and then the studio owner saw it. And she was basically wanting a mat Pilates class. And I'm like looking back at like the class title that she took, and I'm looking at the review and I'm like, she signed up for sculpt, but she was wanting something low impact and slow. Did she just sign up for the wrong class? And I was like, oh, I feel bad for this girl. And like, if you don't know what you signed up for, that was an accident. Like, that's fine. And I think people really need to read too, because they may go to a sculpt class expecting a Pilates class, or they may go to a Pilates class expecting a sculpt class. And I think having a certain expectation and knowing, okay, what can I do in this space and what can I not do in this space, and what should be the expectation in another and what shouldn't be, because it can blend. And I think, I guess mat Pilates should be, maybe it can be to the beat, it can be fun, it can be sculpty, but it should maybe be a little bit more bare bones, and it should be a little bit more just you and the mat, honestly. In sculpts, yeah, you can have more fun. You can be more to the beat. You can be a little bit more bouncy. You can do all the things in it. But yeah, it is a fine line of like knowing your space and knowing like when it should be a certain specific thing, and then knowing when you can blend and fuse a little bit more. So just kind of knowing and staying authentic to who you are and what your training is, I think is another, again, I'll always go back to that. Just knowing who you are and what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
You know, every studio I feel like has different expectations of how an instructor needs to show up as well. So it's finding the balance of, okay, what are you expected to do? Clear expectations, but then also like, how do you continue to be yourself as well on top of that? So since you have such a diverse studio background of working in a lot of different studios and knowing expectations and teaching the way that you want to teach, but also maintaining your voice and growing that voice over time, how do you protect your energy? Like as a teacher, like how do you not get burnt out?
You know, I ask myself that every single day. How do I not get burnt out? Some days, I'm going to be honest with you, I still have to work through that. Just yesterday, I mean, over the weekend, I worked myself too much and like, I felt a little pull on my shoulder. And so really listening to your body and knowing your cues is a big, big thing. As far as protecting my energy with others, that is something I have really had to learn. Every day, I start off with just like a little bit, and it sounds so cheesy, that little day of my life where you like just sit down and have a moment to yourself. You do your journaling, and it sounds so cheesy. And I used to think, do I really need that moment? Do I really need to? No, yes, you do. You really do need that moment to just check in with yourself and tell yourself it's going to be a good day. It might not be the best day in the world, but it's going to be a good day. Yes, you have X, Y, and Z that you need to take on and you need to do and you need to accomplish, but you're going to do at least a majority of that. So at least centering myself at the beginning of the day is a big thing. Protecting my energy going to class, I always listen to my playlist prior, just so that I have that like cemented in my head. I get my energy ready for that class. So again, that's like looking at my roster, memorizing the names, figuring out this person has an injury last time I saw them. Okay, so-and-so is straining on their neck. Okay, I know not to maybe do a neck pull, or I know not to do like something funky there. Okay, this person wanted more core last week. So, okay, we're going to kind of pick on them and be maybe a little bit of a bully to them. So just kind of like checking in on that and just seeing where the class is as well, and then leveling myself to them. And also like at the end of class, really taking a good wipe down of my energy in my car, just sitting for a moment and having a good car sit. And just a good like 5 or 3 minute like baby meditative practice is really big for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I kind of want to get into more like rituals that you do too, just to protect your energy in that way. But I'll never forget a girlfriend of mine who's a big fitness instructor in Chicago. She did a post probably a couple years ago about this, but she was like, I always give myself, if I teach for an hour, I give myself an hour. And the way my mind literally blew, because you have to clean your energy in some way. And a couple years ago, I was just going, because that was the trek. It's like you teach so many classes a week, you have to move from one studio to the next. And like, then you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. You have to eat, you have to drink water. If you're in a heated room, you have to make sure that you have your electrolytes to make sure that just all the things. And it forever changed how I physically taught, but also energetically taught, since I teach other things other than Pilates and fitness. But to give myself an hour, if I taught an hour, I give myself an hour, I was like, wow.
I love that.
Fascinating. I kind of want to talk more about your ritual. So you mentioned journaling. What does that look like to you? Because I really struggle with journaling.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's actually so hard. And I'll just ask a basic question. Like, it can be something so funny. Like right now I'm dealing with a weird like shoulder, like back thing. It's like, okay, where could this be coming from? So what are the things that I did the day before I started feeling this? So the day I started feeling it, I ran and I did a new Pilates class with a new teacher that I didn't know. And it was fine. It was great. But I think the day before I could have just been less go, and I could have actually drank water. And I didn't do anything too crazy. I taught 2 standing classes, so 2 reformer classes where I didn't really demo a lot, didn't move a lot, but I was standing and I was walking. I taught another class later after that, just little things where I was moving and going, but I didn't actually eat until later in the day. So just retracking and thinking about, okay, what caused X, Y, and Z? That's the main thing that I journal about, is just retracking and figuring out where can I kind of optimize and improve on my overall day-to-day. But yeah, that's kind of what it trickles down to. And then it does go into some more deeper things, like if I'm dealing with like a family issue, or if I'm dealing with like, don't understand why a friend did something, or maybe I don't have the confidence to ask a certain question. It's like, okay, if I don't have the confidence to ask this, where is that originating from? Where is that insecurity coming from? Okay, if I'm finding an issue in something, where can this also go back to? Maybe not yesterday, maybe not today, maybe a month or 6 months ago. What happened?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, and it's so funny putting pen to paper and like actually retracking things. It's like, of course, then hindsight is always 2020. I feel like a lot of times when you can actually see it written down to be like, oh, well, no wonder this is going on, or I feel this way when my day prior was X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't have to be full on sentences. I very rarely write like a full on journal. Half the time I'm just writing in bullet points because that's all I have time to do. But I mean, even the bullet points help.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you do that really is very intentionally like, I'm taking care of Macy, like I'm putting me first, when you're so much giving your energy out to other people? Because I know for me, at least, there are so many times where I'm like, I'm giving. And then it's like, oh, I haven't been that great in receiving or giving myself something. Are there ways that you find that support you best to receive?
So number one, I think kind of you touched on it. When you're a fitness instructor, sometimes you love the go. You love the this. We have to be there. I have to, other than this, I have to always have Mondays off. And this is like a fun recharge thing too, because we're retracking and we're talking about rituals and we're figuring things out. And it's very personal. I love that. So these are like the little Monday exceptions. Yeah. But Monday is always like a nothing day. I'm not doing more than sitting on a couch.
Love.
I will not do more. Every 6 days of the other week, great. I'll do whatever. I'll do anything. I will move mountains. But Monday, no. I would never have a case of the Mondays ever again. Mm-hmm. Ever.
I'm obsessed with that. It was like, yes, give myself 1 day a week, and having it be like a Monday is such a beautiful way to restart your week.
When nobody else, because I get to have my little cave. I get to go to the grocery store in the morning. No one else is there. It's usually the most fresh produce too.
Ooh, that's amazing. Yes. Okay. Taking notes. How do I redo my schedule now? Incredible. Okay. So you've been in this space for a little bit of time now. What's next? Like, where do you want to go? Like, when you're running, I don't like to call it the rat race, but a lot of times when you're in that go and running from studio to studio, what is the end goal for you? Like, where do you see yourself in the next couple years? If you could wave that magic wand and be like, I see that.
If I could wave my magic wand, I would have like I'd want like a small beach town, like studio. And then I'd want like a nice beach town, beach house. And that would be my life. But I mean, it would be every girl's dream to have a studio in Dallas. And I feel like Dallas is like the Pilates hub right now, other than like LA and New York and Miami. In that breath, Dallas is so oversaturated for a Pilates studio. Like you said, it's almost like a Starbucks at this point. They're everywhere. So maybe one day maybe own a studio. But as far as right now, I do feel like the next 5 or so years are kind of a harvesting period for me. Like I mentioned, I have my Legree certification. I have my 3 mat modules, and then I have a dance certification. So I'm kind of in a harvesting mode of like all of these certifications, got to catch them all like Pokemon. And working toward that full Pilates comprehensive right now. And so again, kind of just harvesting and waiting until that right moment to open up a space. So maybe that's in a beach town, maybe that's in Dallas, maybe that's somewhere else in Texas, but we'll see.
I love that so much. So as far as all of the certifications that are on your list, is it tough to want to figure out which one to go to next, or like to be like, oh, this one's for sure next, or this one or this one?
Luckily, I will say with like getting your full Pilates certification is kind of like a track. So it's not as far as like right now, it's not which one is next, it's where to go next. I had the privilege of learning from an incredible instructor in Austin for Mat 2. Her name is Maggie Jones. She's at Align. So if anybody is looking for a mat certification, go to Align in Austin. They're amazing. But regardless, Maggie kind of put me on to looking more into the generations and looking more into the lineage, and I guess finding the concrete answer in what Joseph Pilates originally wanted. So the next certification for me is actually kind of traveling and going on a little bit of a trek. So I'm excited about that.
Yay.
Yeah. So I'm getting certified from somebody who is like a second generation or something. So I'm excited about that. So kind of learning more and just wanting to, I think, find like a good source is something important. I think instructors really need to look at potentially too when they're looking at their certification process.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really haven't heard talk about a lot until like, rather, I hear it being talked about a lot behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of behind closed doors conversations about that. But if you don't know the right people,
If you don't know,
then you're never going to know who is going to be the best fit for you long term. And so as far as having a mentor and an educator that is proper in this space, which I feel like we've spoken to a lot about, is so important, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be teaching in a lot of spaces and like finding your voice, it is so necessary to have the bare bones basics before you like go off and fly at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because putting together a sequence is not just putting together a sequence. It's so much more than that. And so how do you find who's best fit you in the space? Or have you been through experiences where you're like, okay, I'm so glad I did that training, but maybe wasn't the best education fit, or, oh, I wish I did something different?
Going with your gut and then really thinking about the kind of instructor that you want to be. Like I said, I love the education that I've received so far. And I think that everything that I've taken on thus far is amazing. And I've had so much knowledge. But one thing that I think in the Pilates space right now is that it has gotten a little bit washed. It can be, like you said, interchangeable with fitness. And I've gone into some mat Pilates classes where I'm like, this is a mini HIIT class with like 3-pound weights. Like what? So for me personally, finding like the root, okay, this is from Joseph Pilates, is really important. And that might not be the path somebody else wants to go down. Maybe they do want to be the more like HIIT strength, where it is kind of like an AMRAP, low rep, fun HIIT class. And that's cool. So if you want to go down that route, go down that route and find those sources. But if you want to be more true to what Joseph Pilates was, go down a more concrete route. So just finding what style you like and following it is, I think, is really important to you as an instructor, and finding your voice and finding, if you like to move that way, you should teach that way at the end of the day.
I also think as far as new instructors that are wanting to come into the space, because like we've talked about, there's so many incredible spaces here in Dallas. And I do think we are so lucky to be such a beautiful hub for not only Pilates, but also fitness in general. I really do feel like we're the 4th, 5th best city for fitness, truly, which I think is so incredible. So let's say I've never taken, or I've taken a bunch of classes, I like everything kind of around town, but I think I want to be a Pilates instructor. Ooh. What would you tell me?
I would say, okay, do you like classical or do you like Legree? What do you like? If you know what you like, go there. Mm-hmm. Continue on that path. But also see, okay, what I want to teach again, what I want to teach 5 years from now. If I move to Chicago, if I move to LA, New York, hell, I don't care, BFE, Idaho, like doesn't matter. Like, would this be able to transfer to BFE, Idaho? Or would it be able to transfer to Miami? Would it be able to transfer anywhere? Mm-hmm. So definitely go the route that you like to move, but also see, is it backed up by anything? For instance, I don't know anything about yoga, but a studio that I do go to occasionally is Black Swan. I know their training is backed by Yoga Alliance. Mm-hmm. Don't know anything about yoga, but I figure that's probably a good thing to be backed up by. That's a great name. Balance Body is backed up by like NASM, A's, everything in between. I believe the same thing for Stott, Polestar, Legree. Same idea. It's backed by something. So if you go to a studio, what is it backed by? Can you take this somewhere else? Or can you just teach at this studio and cool, that's all. If that's your only goal, that's great. Do that. But what do you really want out of this? Is this something that you want to invest into and that you can take other places? Or is this something that you just want to do for a few months just because it's fun?
I love that. And the other thing too, I think is so true, kind of what we've talked about is the time.
Yeah, the time.
If someone told me how much time it would have taken to get all of the certifications under my belt that I felt like that I needed to feel good about teaching, like across the board in any of the aspects that I teach in, I'm really not sure if I would have. I mean, it's like, is it best to go in naive and not knowing, or is it best to be like really well versed in what you're getting into? I don't know.
I don't know either. For me, I think I'm happy that I just took the big jump and I was like, oh, I did not realize that this puddle was actually an ocean. Okay. I thought I was just going to make a little itty bitty like baby splash. And no, I made a big pencil jump.
Yes, we're going so deep. So deep. I love that. So I know we kind of talked about like moving forward and everything and the magic wand of everything, of the dreams, but what's your purpose and what's your why behind keeping you going when the process of going through not only all the education, but teaching at the multiple different studios and making sure your wellness is on top of it? And I mean, there's so many aspects to being like an instructor and a facilitator that I feel like are not talked much about because of all the background that you have to do. You have to create the structure of the class. You have to create the playlist, and if it's beat driven or if it's not, and what kind of energy do you want to bring? And I mean, there's so many aspects rather than just walking into a class and just teaching and then leaving, which not naive to say, but I feel like a lot of students may just kind of not take advantage, but not realize the energy and effort that you're putting into each hour class that you put into, whether you repeat them or not every now and again, but still it's a lot of energy. What is your purpose and why to keep you going under those circumstances where it's some ebbs and flows where you're ebbing a little bit and you're like, oh my God. Ooh.
So every day, like I said, I have that little check-in. And it is just like, kind of like how we started, just maybe a little bit of breath, maybe a little bit of a cat-cow. But every morning I also have this memory that comes back every single day. And it's this little girl who couldn't get her frickin' back handspring. And she tried over and over and over and over again until she tore her left shoulder. She eventually got it. But every single day, you just have to keep trying and keep working at something. And you're going to get it. Eventually, you're going to get it. And not every class is going to be perfect. Not every class is going to speak to everybody. Not every class is going to be seamless. You're going to forget maybe a bicep curl on one side. You might forget an extra kick. But somebody's going to have a good time, and somebody's going to have some sort of connection, and somebody's going to feel seen, and somebody is going to accomplish something in that class. Is it 1,000%, 110 out of 10? Maybe not, but it's going to be a good time. And so that's the thing that keeps me going, knowing that I can no matter what.
And thank you for speaking to that too, because no matter how many years you've been doing this, I feel like sometimes the self-talk can get a little bit harder as you get deeper into the years as an instructor, because it's like, oh, well, I should. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of the should talk where it's like, how do you deal with that?
That should talk is also backed up by I should also give myself grace.
Love that.
Yeah. So it's always I should do X, Y, and Z, but I should also realize you're human. They're human too. They're going to get over it and have another Pilates class. It's just Pilates at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed with that. No, thank you for that. completely and utterly agree with you, because I feel like what I don't hear enough about in the space is how hard it can be to continue going and going and going.
It can be. And it's just, I mean, it can be silly things like dehydration, like teaching a heated class. It can be silly things like just saying that maybe something bothered your day, maybe traffic jam, but you just have to keep going sometimes and just plug in. And I hate to say it, but remember your why and remember what you're doing in that space and being present and staying present.
Oof. So important.
Yeah.
Macy, I love this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I love checking in with you.
Everything. This has been so special because I love taking your classes. So I'm so glad we got to do this.
I love having you in my classes too.
Well, thank you. Even if I'm like a gremlin some mornings, it's
but we love the gremlin vibes.
Yeah, we're here for it.
All the gremlin vibes.
So if people want to find you, where can they find you? Can they reach out to you? Do you do privates? What do you do? Tell me everything.
Yeah. So I teach at Studio Sante in Snyder Plaza, and I teach at Tremble off of Henderson. If you ever want to DM me, just DM me. My Instagram is Macy the Mermaid. We may or may not. Yeah, this is going to air after my class, but I am also going to be teaching a back to school burn that's going to benefit my old alma mater. So I'm going to be benefiting students of WT White in the dance and cheer department. So if they need financial assistance, this class is going to be $30, and you can Venmo me at Macy-Hernandez, and then just put back to school burn. But otherwise, yeah, that's where you can find me, and I can do privates, I can do events, whatever you need. I love doing bachelorettes. Those are fun. Mm-hmm. Those are really fun.
Those are so fun. I have the best time doing them because everyone's energy is always great.
I know. I have one, my friend's bachelorette, and I'm like, but I don't know if she she doesn't do mat Pilates, and I don't want to impose that on that.
Oh, you can always impose. I always impose. I'm always like, sorry. I was like, no matter how hungover we are, we're gonna get some movement in.
We're gonna do this.
Like, sorry. I'm like, I'm gonna provide this to you, and whether you like it or not, it might be painful, but you're gonna get over it.
You're gonna get over it.
Yeah.
I may as well just tell them we're doing it.
100%. Absolutely. We're here for that. Last thing I have for you. Is there anything else that you'd want to share that you want anyone to know about you, or new instructors or new teachers or anything like that?
Don't be afraid to just jump in. Just jump in. Just do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Macy, thank you so much.
Thank you.